Coming up on Not the End, NDE.
So she was walking into the heaven gates, and a big, huge gate opened up, and all her relatives, all her family, her mother, her father, all of the family members were waiting on her on the left side, not on the right, on the left. And on the right side, her cat came in and greeted her. And my grandmother, she moved to the gate and she said, "I can't believe you waited for so long for me." And then they replied, they say, "We wait on everyone to come here." And she couldn't believe that. But she turned around and looked down and she said, "Please stop crying for me because I can't move on."
Many have died and returned to tell of their near-death experiences. Their incredible stories reveal to the living that this is not the end.
Hello, my name is Daniela Hopple, and I'm born 1981 in Germany with my twin sister. We are identical twins, and we grew up in a very haunted house. I mean, you could see the ghosts opening the doors with their hands. You can hear footsteps, moving objects. But besides that, we were living there until we were 13 years. And then we moved out. And we were always spiritual because, you know, what we saw, we know there is more to life. Like there has to be more because of all this, what was going on in the house. And so we just started, me and my sister, looking in people's eyes to see anything. And we both, me and her, we felt like we have the connection, like the eyes are like a book. So we just did that out of curiosity. So we were reading people through their eyes, and it shook somebody so much that they ran off saying, "Wow, what are you?" I didn't know this person. He was a friend from somebody, and he came over, and I looked in his eyes, and I told him, because he wanted to date me, and I said, how come you have somebody at home, like a wife or girlfriend, and you have a little child, and the child is in the hospital now? And he took off. He was like, "How can you know all this?" and took off. But anyways, I think it's something we just didn't know if that works, and we didn't heard of anything like it, but we just were reading eyes. But besides that, we grew up being very curious, and I didn't know if there is something like a past life. So what we did we were going into somebody to do hypnosis, like a past life regression. And so we were there, and me and my sister were going there, and for me it was terrible. I came out crying and didn't want to be here. I just wanted to be back in the last life, or in one of these lives that I had. And my face broke out in pimples. I had big nasty pimples, and I always had a clear skin. But, you know, after I did this hypnosis, I didn't felt right anymore. I didn't felt myself. And so I decided to do something about it, to go to doctors, and the doctors couldn't help. They said there's something inside of you that you have to fix, and nothing we can do. And I said, how can that be? Like, I can't believe that. So I did my research, and I found a shaman healer. So I went to the shaman, and the shaman actually healed me absolutely great. I was laying there on that table, and she did her thing, like some music or some guru, somehow she did it with some drums. And in this moment, I felt like I saw my whole myself as I'm being back in the womb. I heard a heartbeat, and I saw all these episodes of how I'm born with my sister and until that day. And then I came back and I felt so amazing. I was healed. But also what happened, my third eye opened. So I went home. I was walking there. Another few days later, I was walking on the streets, and in daylight, my sister was next to me, and we saw the cars, like I saw them clearly on the side of my eye. And in the middle of myself, of my front head, I saw like a little, I don't know how to describe it. It's like a little TV screen. So I saw that they open up the light, and I saw my grandmother going into heaven. And I saw she was on the clouds, and it was like so clear. I was in there with my soul. But I just was in shock seeing all that. I'm like, wow, I was still walking, but I saw it clear in front of me. So she was walking into the heaven gates, and a big, huge gate opened up, and all her relatives, all her family, her mother, her father, all of the family members were waiting on her on the left side, not on the right, on the left. And on the right side, her cat came in and greeted her. And my grandmother, she moved to the gate, and she said, I can't believe you waited for so long for me. And then they replied, they say, we wait on everyone to come here. And she couldn't believe that. But she turned around and looked down, and she said, please stop crying for me because I can't move on. And the vision went gone. It was amazing. I still couldn't believe it. It was all of a sudden, I was still not talking about it because I wasn't sure what to talk about it. Then I told my uncle, and I said to him, I had a dream, because I didn't know how else to say it. I can't just say my third eye opened and I saw this vision. I didn't want to say that because he wasn't so believing in stuff. So I just said I had a dream that our grandmother is dying soon. And he said to me, how can you say such a thing? And a week, maybe 10 days later, she died. And it was very unexpected. She just fell, but she was okay. She just went to the hospital for a checkup, and they found stuff that wasn't okay inside of her. And they had her in the hospital, and it was absolutely sad. And I told my grandmother, I also forgot to mention, I saw in my third eye, at the gate, in the beginning, I saw little angels in little bubbles, and they were amazing. It was just such an amazing sight to see all that. And anyways, going back to the hospital where my grandmother were laying then, I told her a little bit about it. I said, Grandma, I saw you in heaven, and it's amazing. But she didn't believe me either. She couldn't talk anymore. She had liver cirrhosis. They found out her liver was very bad, and there's no chance of surviving. And I told her this, and she is like, she just didn't want to hear it. And I told her, please, if you are in heaven, you have to come and take me and show me everything. And she heard me, but I'm not sure what she made out of it. I think she knew I was very spiritual, and so anyways, the sad day came. Me and my sister, we had a birthday on the 18th, and she was very sick, so she waited one more day that she didn't pass away on our birthday. So she waited another day, and then she passed away. We were all called to be there together when she was dying, so we all came in the morning. I think around 1 o'clock she died then, and we couldn't stop crying. It was absolutely terrible. But a day or a few days later, I don't know exactly, but not long after she died, she heard me what I said in the hospital, and she wanted to take me to heaven to show me everything. So I was sleeping, and it must have been around the morning sometime, and I was very fast asleep. But I know all of a sudden I stand in our old house where we grew up, the spooky haunted house, and I was standing there next to her and next to the mirror. I don't know, the mirror has a big meaning because there was a ghost in that mirror when we lived there. I mean, she appeared in the mirror, and somehow I got scared always sometimes. And so I was standing next to that mirror, and my grandmother there too. And I didn't thought nothing of it. Like my consciousness was just observing. I was just okay with whatever there is now. And so she just said, come with me, and I did. And she said, I hide behind the doors because I'm afraid I get seen by these other people that moved in here. And I'm like, oh yeah, okay, and didn't thought nothing of it. And all of a sudden we were in her other house where she lived to the last time. And I was there with her, watching her. I mean, my grandfather, it was her husband. I was watching with her next to me, with my grandmother, watching him sleeping and snoring. And she said, that's what I'm doing. And then I said, wow, that's interesting. And then we moved into the hallway. And this was interesting now because my consciousness was coming to me saying, how is that possible that I talk to you and you are dead? I thought you were dead. And she said, no, my body was not good anymore, but my brain is still alive. And I said, wow, I can't. But somehow I started to get a little bit afraid because how come that I stand there next to her being, what am I then? Like my consciousness was like a little bit in fear, let's say it this way, because it was extremely real. She touched my nose, my grandmother, and said, you can't know everything, but I have to go now. I said, yeah, where are you going? And she pointed to the ceiling. And I looked up at the ceiling, and there was no ceiling. It was filled with a huge, vibrant light, like a very bright, and then like a little golden light. I don't know how to describe it. And it was moving. And this was also incredible. So she pointed up there. She said she has to go back there. And I said, wow. And you could feel the tension of the light, that they want her back. And I could feel it. Like she said, they want me back now. And I could feel this tension of her needing to go back there. And I said, because I asked her also, do you sleep? Do you eat? What do you do? And then that's when she touched my nose and said, you can't know everything, because I also have to go now. But then I said, yes, I have to go too, because if I don't know, if I'm waking up and you're still there, I'm gonna, in this moment, I just came to the conclusion, this is so extremely real, and I have to go back. Like, I knew it was real, but half of my self didn't want to be in 100% fear, because I wouldn't be experience what I experienced if I just had fear coming in my way. So I know I looked down the stairs, and whoosh, like a wind, I was back in my body. I fell out of the bed because I was falling back into my body. I never fell out of bed like I am an adult, and I fell in my body out of bed, and I wrote it down. Like, I was so amazed, and I couldn't believe it. And I don't think I talked to many people about it. And then, it was just a very great experience. I couldn't process it for a long time. Like, I couldn't believe it. It was just extreme. And also there was another out-of-body experience that I had. So relatives from my grandfather and grandmother we visit them once in a while, and it was an elderly couple, and they were living alone in a big house, very old, 100 years old or a little older, and they still had a toilet outside, like really old, in Germany. And they had like a little, like they did their own meats and stuff, and we visit them once in a while, but nobody really, like, nobody said much about it and stuff. So we were kids, and when we grew up, we still came over once in a while with our mother there. And the old guy who lived there, he passed away, and I didn't thought nothing of it. I just went home, go on with my day. A few days passed, maybe a few weeks, I'm not sure. And then I was sleeping, and all of a sudden I stand next to this man that passed away, the old guy in the house. And he said, I have to show you something. So I said, okay. And he said, I did so bad with my wife. I was treating her so wrong. I was hitting her, and I seen like that it was like a window appeared on the right side, how he treated her. Like I saw him hitting her, and he said, I have to make it good. And because he kind of stuck in between, it was like a feeling, I just know it. And he said, you have to tell your mom to move in here to save my wife, because alone she would take her life, or she would die on a lonely heart. Like one of these, because she was alone in that big house. And you also have to put wood in the house and in the fireplace, because it doesn't have heating. It has cold water, all this kind of stuff. And he said, if you tell your mother to move in here, so my wife can fully live her life. And I said, how can I tell her this? I thought in my mind. And then he showed me the furniture will be moved. And when my mom moves in there, so he showed me the future. Everything will be different. She will remodel the floor. She will put the furniture, those old ones are there. She will still put on the hallway, but the rest she will remodel and stuff. And I saw it. And I left, like I know it was so real. He talked to me. It was so insane. I cannot believe this. And then I went back. I again fell out of my body in the middle of the night, I think about 4 or 5 a.m. And I just said, wow. And then I told my mother, I said, because my mother also, she is helping elderlies. She's working in a nursing home for many years, also when that happened. So she helps elderly people, and that is her passion. And so I told her, I said, I had this dream of, you can say dream, but I know I was there. He took me out with my soul, and he showed me. And I told her this. I said, I was standing next to him, and he showed me he treated his wife bad, and he needs to make it good, because he wants to also move on, and the wife needs to have a fully lived life, because she wants to kill herself. Like she didn't want to live anymore. She didn't see the point in living without him and being all alone. So I have to tell you, mother, you need to move in there. And she knew that is an old house. It needs remodeling, and it also has no heating. You have to heat the place with a fire, and it's all a lot. But I said, you have to do it. And then we visit the old lady, me and her. And the old lady said, there is no point in me living, because I'm alone. I'm very alone. And I do want to take my own life, because I don't see the sense. And when I heard that, I was shocked, because I didn't know, like, this is real. Like, he told me all this, and this is absolutely making sense. And then my mother was just thinking in her thoughts and stuff. And I think later on, a few days, maybe weeks later, she visited her again, and she made that suggestion to move in with her. And so now, since about over 20 years, she's living in that house, and she took care of that old lady. She cooked for her, and she did a lot for her, and they had company each other. And on the end, when she got weaker, my mother cared for her, and she died peacefully I think at the age of 85, maybe 85, I think. And my mother was always there, and that's what truly mattered. Like, she was there, and also she did remodel, like the old guy said. She would do, like, the old furniture was still there. They are still there until this day. And she remodeled the floor, and she made her own little self comfortable, like, room there. And yeah, and so she was doing a good favor, and I did a good favor. I helped, let's say this, I helped a ghost, and I can't believe it. And another quick story was when I was sleeping again, and it was about 6 or 7 years before I had my own kids, and I was sleeping, and my grandmother came again, and right away I stood next to her in a very wide surrounding. There was like many rooms, and it was all like out of like clouds. Everything was white, and there was doors and a wide hallway, and my grandmother walked with me to one door, and then she left me there, and I saw her leaving, and then I thought kind of that sad, why is she leaving me there on that door? And then I went in that door, and it was a playroom, and it was amazing. Like, there was an old rocking chair, and there was a doll, and I saw that doll. It had no hair, and I was just looking at it, and that doll, those eyes came alive, saying, "You are going to be my mom in the future." And in this moment, I had the biggest shock in my life. I said, how can that be? Like, I knew it was totally real. My fear came back to my soul or something. I just said nothing and left, and I fell back in my body and fell out again, and I just could not believe it. And 6 years surely later, and I had my daughters. This was my second daughter in that experience, because my first daughter was another experience. So I was walking on the daylight on the beach. I just had not even found out that I was pregnant, but I know that I was possibly pregnant, and I didn't know for sure, but I was walking on the beach, and I heard that voice on the sky saying, "We will always miss us." And in this moment I thought, wow, how can that be? I mean, it has to, like, I just kind of knew it was my daughter. I don't know, it was just a knowing out of nowhere. And I knew it came from the sky. And then still later on, a few days later, I was in the bathroom actually cleaning up my turtle in the bathtub. Then I heard a deep voice saying, "You are going to be a good mom." And this was like a shocker, because I still didn't know I was pregnant. And then a few days later, then I took the pregnancy test, and I was pregnant. But also when my grandmother appeared again, but this time in a vision. See, she said, this child will be a very difficult child, and all the surroundings around that, and it will be hard. And I mean, that was the vision of her. And I mean, I was sure I wanted to keep her. There was no question about it. And I had her, and with my husband at that time, and my husband was very, like, controlling, not the way I wanted it to be. I mean, I had, just had a daughter and gave birth in the hospital, very difficult, and per cesarean. It was emergency. And anyways, about 4 months, 5 months later, we were splitting up because it was too much. The dad was just a little bit too much for me. And so anyways, we were fighting in court very badly because we both wanted to parent, and he was much older than I was. And so we had to make a shared parenting plan, and it was very difficult because he was extremely stubborn and only his way and only his hours. So we fight it back and forth. It was very exhausting, but we had to come to a plan. And so we see her, I see her 1 week and he sees her 1 week. So we share, and it was extremely hard. And that child, since she was very little, like about 5 or 6 months, she always cried, having to go to the dad. And I mean, he didn't do nothing. I know that for a fact. But it was her wanting to be with me. I mean, I just was a mother. I didn't do anything different than I did to my other kids. I was loving, and my ex-husband was loving as well, but she just felt more connected to me. And so since now she's turning 13 in April, and we always miss us to the day we got a divorce. And it is very much a struggle. Like, we cope with it, we pray about it, and we have to accept it, but it's absolutely a struggle. And I'm not convincing her to stay with me only or anything. It's out of her own self that she wanted to stay with me. And you know, we do this for years, but every time she said, I miss you so much and I wish I can only be with you instead. And she really cries also. I mean, the dad doesn't care about it. He just wants the right of the parenting, and I don't even get any child support. It's not about that. It's just him wanting to be stubborn and having her because it's the only daughter he has. And that is a very hard, tough one on my daughter as well. And sometimes it was on me because she cries, she refuses to go. So it is what she was predicting in heaven. Like, when I heard the voice, we will always miss us. Now she's 13 and it didn't end yet. And so that was absolutely, that came true. And I'm a medium. I gave a few messages in my life for free. Ghosts contact me, or if people who are in grief, they did contacted me, and for some reason I can hear clearly what the other side is telling me, and I give these messages, you know, in peace and always mean the best, and they are absolutely stunning. I mean, like, I can't believe what I'm doing, but it's just naturally. So this is the story that I wanted to tell. You don't have to be dead to have a near-death experience. If you're very spiritual or you're wanting to learn about it, open your mind, and there's always possibilities. And me and my sister, we also have a channel. It's called Spiritual Miracles. And there's other stories, and I hope for everybody that you have an open mind, and many people give all these nice messages to others, you know, so nobody needs to fear any death, because fearing is wrong. And I wish everybody a very good spiritual journey in this life. Bye.
How is this story meaningful to you? If you're watching on YouTube, tell us in the comments. If you're listening to the podcast, leave a review and tell us there. If you or someone you know have a similar kind of story, please also leave that in the comments or send us a message at our website. Maybe we'll feature you. Visit nottheendnde.com. Be blessed and a blessing, my friends.